Hi, and welcome back to Northern Maple. In our first episode, we decided to look into who Mark Carney is. He is well educated and professionally accomplished. There's no denying it. He attended Harvard and Oxford. He worked for Goldman Sachs, was the governor of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England. He was then vice chair and chair of Brookfield Asset Management. He gave a brilliant speech during his campaign launch in Edmonton. He stated that he would focus on the economy, that he would ensure it worked better for the middle class, and he would make Canada the fastest growing G7 economy. If I were to base my vote on that alone, he has me convinced. His resume would suggest that he is an expert when it comes to understanding managing the economy. His credentials would suggest that he manages the economy in such a way that benefits the middle class. But that's not what we do here on Northern Maple. We do not take headlines, statements, or any other form of news at face value. We look for the truth and we don't stop until we find it. Luckily, information has never been more accessible than it is today, and I am all about using that to our advantage. After looking into the outcomes of Carney's actions as governor of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, it became clear that Carney either doesn't understand how to manage the economy in a way that benefits the middle class, or he knows exactly how to manage the economy, but manages it in such a way that benefits the wealthy and only the wealthy. Now on to his book, Values. His book, Values, reveals who he is as a person and what his objectives are as a technocrat. The premise of his book is that we as a society have placed values on value. We value the market more than humanity. The example he loves to give, Amazon the company is valued higher than Amazon the forest. He examines the economic history of money and how societies have shifted accordingly. He then examines what he declares as crises: global finance, COVID, and climate change. He believes that climate change is an existential urgency, which I recently found out the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, does not agree with. He then finishes his book with his proposed solutions. It really is that simple of a book, and it is much longer than it needs to be. I didn't find he provided any original ideas or new concepts per se. It reads more like a textbook than anything else, which is ironic because he writes that early economic textbooks are fictitious utils. The only real brilliance within these pages is that it reveals his true nature. He praises Karl Marx, a historical communist who co-authored the Communist Manifesto, which he also randomly mentions in his book for no other purpose than to mark an important historical event. He uses Marxist terminology like bourgeois and proletariat. He makes it abundantly clear that he believes in a system where all the decisions should be made by one person. And with regard to Canada, that one person is him. Just read the first 100 pages. It's all in there. Throughout his book, he made it very clear that he's a globalist and an elitist. And if you don't believe me and don't have the time or the will to read his book, will you believe Carney? Watch this clip and find out.
Your core strengths and your core weaknesses.
Look, your strength is always your weakness. So my strength is, I think you touched on it at the start. My strength is I know how the world works. I know how to get things done. I'm connected. I can deliver for the country. And my weakness is, people will charge me as being elitist or a globalist, to use that term, which is, well, that's exactly, it happens to be exactly what we need.
So here he was on The Rest is Politics. He clearly confirms it all. He is a globalist and elitist, and that is what he believes Canada needs. Let's break that down. If elected, Carney is going to prioritize global needs before our nation, and he believes that he alone should decide the future of Canada. Who is Mark Carney? He is a technocrat, a master puppeteer. While we're watching his show that is eloquently executed in front of us, behind the scenes, he is destroying economies. He's preventing the average earner from thriving. And he is pushing a narrative on climate change that is debilitating our nation. A nation that produces less than 2% of all global carbon emissions. Think about that. Why is he not focused on other environmental problems that Canadians could actually impact, such as improving our recycling facilities that can only manage about 30% of our waste? Why is he not focused on countries that produce the highest levels of carbon emissions, like China, who produces approximately 35% of all global carbon emissions? Why is he not focused on eliminating the use of, private jets? Because by focusing solely on carbon emissions and insisting we need to do our part to save the planet, he will be able to implement policies that will impoverish many Canadians while enriching the select few of his favorite elites. It seems more like a wealth siphoning scheme than a true effort to save our planet for future generations. Carney has shown himself to be more than a hypocrite. Let's look at the evidence. Claim 1. He has saved 2 economies in the midst of crises. The truth? Housing costs and cost of living in general have skyrocketed in both nations as a direct result of his actions as governor of those banks. Claim 2. He knows how to properly manage the market in a way that will benefit the middle class and not favor just a select few. The truth? The wealth gaps of Canada and the UK have worsened due to policies that prevented the average earner and small businesses from accessing loans during periods of low interest rates. However, the wealthy had no issues. They were able to grow their wealth while the average earner and the small business owner struggled to get ahead. Claim 3. He doesn't support the Trudeau government's overspending and does not support a nation becoming over-reliant on their government. The truth? He has been criticized for his own overspending as governor of the Bank of England, and his book revealed that he wants the nation beholden to a technocratic leader who will decide policies, making the population dependent on him. Claim 4. He stated that he was going to proactively work with the ethics commissioner, which will reveal any conflicts of interest he may have, the moment he was appointed a position within the government. The truth? He was appointed as our Prime Minister 38 days ago. Yes, he did set up a blind trust and provided preliminary screenings that will prevent him from participating in any governmental decision that would financially benefit him. However, he has not yet publicly disclosed specific details of his assets or the full conflict of interest plan. Why not? He advocates for full transparency in his book. Yet he refuses to provide Canadians with the transparency they deserve and should have. If he had nothing to hide, why not disclose the information so that Canadians can know who they are potentially voting for? The polls are open. More than 2 million Canadians voted this past Friday, yet we don't know the truth about Carney's motives. And for Claim 5, he believes climate change can be improved by decreasing carbon emissions globally, and this will save the planet for future generations. Truth? He flies around in a private jet, was part of a company who sold coal to China, whose carbon emissions have only increased with every passing year. Here's another fun fact. Based on his public travels, Carney's personal carbon footprint is 28 to 58 times that of the average Canadian. Once again, we are faced with questions of who he is. Options 1, he doesn't care about climate change and is using it as an excuse to grow power and wealth. Or option 2, he does care about the planet and future generations, but in order to offset his lifestyle of high carbon emissions and protect his family's future generations, he is going to mobilize the middle class, which is you and me. Carney has shown himself to be a true hypocrite. He is a skilled manipulator, adept at crafting words for the moment while secretly pursuing a contradictory agenda. Listen, it is very clear. If you want our next Prime Minister to be a technocratic Marxist who will disable the Canadian economy and its growth for the benefit of those select few, you should absolutely vote Mark Carney. He's your guy 100%. But if you want a prime minister who wants to renew our nation, responsibly harness its energy sector, revitalize its industrial sector, and put the well-being of Canadians first, maybe you should vote otherwise. The Conservative Party and their leader might not be perfect, but so far they seem like a better choice than Carney. Just saying. So that's everything for our second episode. I forgot to mention that all of the facts and resources I use will be added to the descriptions below. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.